The quantum field equations on Jade Wilson's holographic display blurred as she rubbed her tired eyes. The basement laboratory of her Victorian home hummed with the familiar sound of servers and cooling systems, a technological cocoon she'd built to escape the world's chaos. At 32, she'd already revolutionized quantum computing theory twice, but tonight's anomalous readings threatened to upend everything she thought she knew about reality itself. "That's impossible," she muttered, adjusting her wire-rimmed glasses. The quantum fluctuations she'd been tracking for months were intensifying, forming patterns that defied the laws of physics. Her instruments detected what appeared to be a stable quantum entanglement field growing right in her lab, but at a scale that shouldn't exist outside of a particle accelerator. The air began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from summer asphalt. Jade's instruments screamed with activity as reality itself seemed to fold inward, creating a swirling vortex of impossible colors. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she grabbed the nearest object, a fire extinguisher, and held it like a weapon. From the vortex emerged a figure that stopped Jade's breath in her throat. Nearly 7 feet tall, with skin that seemed to shift between deep purple and midnight blue, the being moved with liquid grace despite its impressive height. Its features were eerily human-like, yet undeniably alien, with luminescent markings trailing down its neck and arms. Most striking were its eyes, completely silver, with no pupils, yet somehow expressing both intelligence and urgency. Dr. Jade Wilson, the being spoke, its voice resonating with harmonic undertones that made Jade's skin tingle. "I am Varys, Commander of the Stellar Guard of Avalon. Your work in quantum mechanics has led us to you." Jade gripped the fire extinguisher tighter. "How do you know my name? What are you?" "We have been monitoring your research," Varys replied, taking a careful step forward. "Your theories about quantum bridge technology are remarkably close to our own achievements. We need your help." "My help?" Jade laughed nervously. "I'm just a theoretical physicist. My work is all theoretical, not," she gestured at the still swirling portal, "whatever this is. Theory and reality are closer than you imagine, Dr. Wilson. My world is dying. Our sun is becoming unstable, and our attempts to evacuate our population have been sabotaged. Your research could be the key to saving millions of lives." Before Jade could respond, the portal behind Varys began to fluctuate wildly, its edges becoming jagged and unstable. Varys spun around, silver eyes widening. "No, this shouldn't." The portal collapsed with a thunderous crack, leaving behind only a faint scent of ozone and a very tall alien warrior stranded in Jade's basement. "That wasn't supposed to happen," Varys said, an edge of concern creeping into that melodious voice. "The quantum bridge was meant to remain stable for at least 12 hours. Jade lowered the fire extinguisher, her scientific curiosity beginning to overcome her fear. "You said your world is dying. Tell me everything." Varys turned back to her, and for the first time, Jade saw vulnerability in those alien features. "Our star has entered an unprecedented phase of instability. We have perhaps 3 months before it goes nova. We've been evacuating our people through quantum bridges to compatible worlds, but someone has been systematically sabotaging our efforts. Millions have already died when bridges collapsed mid-transfer. And you think I can help? How?" "Your recent paper on quantum stability matrices, it describes exactly what we need to stabilize our bridges. But you took it further than our scientists ever did. You theorized a way to create permanent, stable quantum connections." Jade ran a hand through her short dark hair. "That was all theoretical. I never thought. Reality often catches up to theory, Dr. Wilson. Right now, you may be the only person in 2 worlds who can help us prevent a genocide." Varys stepped closer, and Jade had to crane her neck to maintain eye contact. "Will you help me save my people?" The weight of the moment pressed down on Jade's shoulders. Her entire life had been devoted to understanding the universe's deepest mysteries, but always from the safety of theory and mathematics. Now the universe had literally shown up at her door, asking for help. "I'll help," she found herself saying. "But I need to understand everything about your quantum bridge technology. And we need to figure out who's sabotaging your evacuation efforts." A small smile curved Varys' lips, revealing teeth that gleamed like pearls. "Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Though I should warn you, helping me makes you a target. Whoever is behind the sabotage will not be pleased to learn of your involvement." "Please, call me Jade," she said, setting down the fire extinguisher at last. "And I've spent my whole life playing it safe, hiding in this lab. Maybe it's time I did something that actually matters." As if to punctuate her words, her instruments began beeping urgently. Something was approaching, something that was causing the same kind of quantum disturbances as Varys' arrival. "We need to leave," Varys said sharply. "Now. They've traced my quantum signature." "Who has?" "The ones who want my people to die. And now they know about you too." Jade looked around at her lab, her sanctuary for so many years, and made a decision. She grabbed her laptop and a small device she'd been working on. "Back doors this way. I have a car." As they rushed up the basement stairs, Jade couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. She'd started the evening working on theoretical physics, and now she was fleeing her home with an alien warrior, running from mysterious forces that wanted them both dead. For the first time in years, she felt truly alive. Jade's electric car hummed quietly through the night as she navigated the back roads outside the city. Next to her, Varys sat with knees nearly touching the dashboard, those silver eyes scanning the darkness beyond the windshield. The alien warrior's luminescent markings provided just enough light to cast a soft glow throughout the vehicle's interior. "They're still following," Varys said, monitoring a device that resembled a liquid metal bracelet wrapped around their wrist. "But the quantum signature is getting weaker. Your planet's magnetic field seems to be interfering with their tracking capabilities. That's why you chose Earth, isn't it?" Jade asked, taking a sharp turn onto a dirt road. "Our magnetic field must have unique properties that interact with your quantum technology." "Precisely. Your planet's magnetosphere is unlike anything we've encountered. It's part of why your quantum theories worked where ours failed." Varys paused, head tilting slightly. "There's something else you should know about why I sought you out specifically." Before Varys could continue, a brilliant light burst into existence ahead of them. Jade slammed on the brakes, sending the car into a controlled skid. As they fishtailed to a stop, three figures materialized in the road, humanoid, but wearing sleek armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Hunters," Varys growled, the harmonic undertones in their voice taking on a dangerous edge. "They're not supposed to have this technology. Someone's been giving them advanced quantum tech." "Friends of yours?" Jade asked, already throwing the car into reverse. "The opposite. They're mercenaries who profit from chaos. The collapse of my civilization would create unprecedented opportunities for them." Varys' markings pulsed with increased intensity. "They're here to kill us both." The hunters raised their weapons, exotic-looking rifles that crackled with energy. Jade floored the accelerator in reverse, just as bolts of quantum energy seared the air where they had been moments before. The back window shattered, showering them with safety glass. "Keep driving," Varys commanded, reaching into seemingly empty air and pulling out a weapon of their own, a sword that blazed with the same impossible colors as the portal had. "I'll handle them." "Are you insane? They have guns. They have quantum disruptors. Your Earth weapons would be more effective." Varys smiled grimly. "But they don't know how to fight in your gravity." Before Jade could protest further, Varys launched themselves through the broken window with inhuman grace. The alien warrior landed in a roll and sprang up, blade flashing in deadly arcs as they engaged all three hunters at once. Jade wanted to help, but she knew she'd only be a liability in this fight. Instead, she did what she did best, she analyzed the situation. The hunter's weapons were leaving traces of quantum distortion in the air, visible even to her human eyes. Each shot seemed to briefly tear at the fabric of reality itself. That's when it hit her. She grabbed her laptop and the experimental device she'd brought from her lab. If those weapons operated on quantum principles, maybe she could disrupt them using her theoretical models. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she modified her quantum stability algorithm. The device she'd been working on was meant to stabilize quantum states in computer processors, but with some quick adjustments. Meanwhile, Varys was holding their own against the hunters, their swords somehow deflecting the energy bolts. But Jade could see that even Varys' superior combat skills couldn't overcome the disadvantage of being outnumbered forever. "Varys," she shouted. "Get down." The alien warrior dropped without hesitation as Jade activated her modified device. A wave of quantum interference rippled outward, causing the hunter's weapons to spark and sputter. The mercenaries staggered, clearly disoriented by the disruption of their tech. Varys took immediate advantage, their blade finding vulnerable points in the hunter's armor with surgical precision. Within moments, two lay unconscious, while the third fled into the darkness, their quantum signature fading rapidly. "Impressive adaptation," Varys said, returning to the car. Their markings were pulsing rapidly, whether from exertion or excitement, Jade couldn't tell. "You weaponized your stabilization theory." "I inversed it," Jade explained, still running on adrenaline. "Instead of stabilizing quantum states, I forced them to collapse." "But Varys, those weapons, they're based on the same principles as your quantum bridges, aren't they?" Varys' expression grew grave. "Yes. Which means whoever is sabotaging our evacuation efforts has been selling our technology to the highest bidders." They looked at the unconscious hunters. "We should go. More will come, and we need to get somewhere safe so I can tell you the rest." "The rest?" "About why it had to be you, Jade Wilson. About what I discovered in your genetic code that makes you unique among all humans." Varys' silver eyes seemed to pierce through her. "About why you've always felt different, like you never quite belonged in this world." Jade's hands tightened on the steering wheel. All her life, she'd buried herself in quantum physics because numbers and equations made more sense than people. Because reality itself sometimes seemed wrong, somehow. Like she was seeing it through a slightly different lens than everyone else. "Tell me," she said, putting the car in drive. "Not here. First, we need to reach the safe house. And then." Varys' markings pulsed once, slowly. "Then I'll tell you why saving my people might also mean discovering who you really are." As they drove into the night, Jade's mind raced with possibilities. She'd started this evening as a reclusive physicist. Now she was a fugitive, running from alien mercenaries, possibly on the verge of discovering something about herself that would change everything. And somehow, despite the danger and uncertainty, it all felt right. Like she was finally on the path she was meant to find. The safe house turned out to be an abandoned observatory perched high in the mountains. As Jade followed Varys through the dusty dome, she noticed the alien warrior's markings were pulsing in an irregular pattern she hadn't seen before. Anticipation? Anxiety? She was still learning to read Varys' alien expressions. "This facility was built on a natural quantum anomaly," Varys explained, activating hidden panels with a wave of their hand. Ancient computers hummed to life, their screens displaying data in a script Jade had never seen. "Your government knows nothing of its existence. We've had observers on Earth for centuries, studying your species' potential." "And what exactly is my potential?" Jade asked, setting down her laptop and the quantum device. "You said something about my genetic code?" Varys turned to face her, silver eyes reflecting the starlight that streamed through the observatory's dome. "Your ancestors were not entirely human, Jade. During our earliest observations of Earth, there was contact. Integration. Most descendants of those unions are indistinguishable from regular humans. But you. Their markings pulsed with intense blue light. You inherited the full quantum sensitivity of my species. The revelation hit Jade like a physical blow. She steadied herself against a console, memories flooding back, her uncanny intuition with quantum mechanics, the way she could sometimes almost see the mathematical patterns underlying reality, her lifelong feeling of being somehow different. "That's why my theories worked where your scientists failed," she whispered. "I wasn't just calculating the math. I was feeling it." "Precisely. You can perceive quantum relationships intuitively, just as my people do. But you were born into a society that never taught you to develop these abilities. Instead, you expressed them through mathematics and theory." Before Jade could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the facility. Veres rushed to a monitor, their markings shifting to a deep purple. Multiple quantum signatures approaching. The hunter who escaped must have called for reinforcements. How many? Too many. And Veres's voice trailed off as they studied the readings. "No. That's impossible. Those energy signatures. Jade, we need to leave. Now." The observatory's dome groaned as it began to rotate, not due to any mechanism but from waves of quantum distortion that were becoming visible to even Jade's untrained senses. Reality itself seemed to be buckling under some immense pressure. "What's happening?" she demanded, grabbing her equipment. "They've brought a world breaker," Veres said grimly. "Technology that was banned even before our sun began dying. It creates cascading quantum failures that can tear apart the fabric of spacetime itself." The air rippled as multiple portals began forming around them, each one disgorging more hunters in their light-absorbing armor. But these were accompanied by a new figure, a being that seemed to shift and distort with every movement, as if they weren't fully anchored in this reality. "Quantum General Nixus," Veres spat the name like a curse. "I should have known you were behind the sabotage." The shifting figure solidified enough to reveal features similar to Veres's but twisted, their markings crackling with unstable energy. "Commander Veres. How disappointing to find you consorting with primitives. Though." Nixus's gaze fixed on Jade with unsettling intensity. "This one has interesting patterns in her quantum signature. A hybrid? How fascinating." "The evacuation could have saved everyone," Veres said, subtly positioning themselves between Jade and the new threat. "Why sabotage it? Save everyone? How short-sighted." Nixus gestured, and the quantum distortions intensified. "Our sun's death is an opportunity. Those who survive will be stronger. Those who don't." They shrugged. Natural selection on a cosmic scale. Jade's mind raced. The quantum disruption device she'd used against the hunters wouldn't work against this level of technology. But maybe. She glanced at the observatory's old equipment, an idea forming. "Veres," she whispered. "The telescope's magnetic coils. If we overload them." She didn't need to finish. Veres understood immediately, their markings pulsing in agreement. The alien warrior drew their quantum blade, its glow seeming dim compared to the reality-warping energies now filling the dome. "Your primitive weapons can't harm me," Nixus laughed. "I've transcended physical form through quantum manipulation." "Maybe," Jade said, stepping forward. "But you still have to exist somewhere in the quantum field." She reached out with her newfound awareness, feeling the currents and eddies of quantum probability surrounding them. "And fields can be disrupted." She slammed her hand down on the telescope's control panel, channeling power into its electromagnetic coils. At the same time, Veres launched into action, their blade weaving patterns that somehow matched the quantum frequencies Jade could now perceive. The air itself seemed to scream as electromagnetic and quantum forces collided. Nixus's form began to fluctuate wildly, their confident expression turning to one of shock. The hunters' weapons sparked and died as reality reasserted itself. "Run!" Varys grabbed Jade's hand, pulling her toward a maintenance tunnel as the observatory began to collapse around them. Behind them, Nyxus's enraged howl resonated on frequencies that human ears were never meant to hear. They emerged onto the mountainside just as the observatory imploded, folding in on itself in a spectacular display of quantum physics gone wrong. Jade's ancient hybrid DNA sang in her veins as she witnessed forces that her equations had only hinted at. "That won't hold them for long," Varys said, not letting go of her hand. "But now we know why my people are really dying. Nyxus and their followers, they're using our son's death as a eugenics program." "Then we stop them," Jade said with a certainty that surprised her. "You came to Earth looking for a way to save your people. Instead, you found a weapon." Varys looked at her curiously. "A weapon?" Jade smiled grimly. "Me. A human Avalon hybrid who understands quantum mechanics in ways neither of our species ever has. Nyxus wants to play with natural selection? Let's show them what real evolution looks like." As if in response to her words, her own quantum signature flared visible for a moment, harmonizing with Varys's markings in a display of light that illuminated the mountainside. The warrior's silver eyes widened in surprise and something else, hope, perhaps, or admiration. They needed to move quickly. Nyxus would recover, and now they knew exactly what Jade was. But for the first time since this began, she felt truly awakened to her potential. She wasn't just a theoretical physicist anymore. She was the bridge between two worlds, and she would use that power to save them both. Dawn painted the mountain peaks in shades of gold as Jade and Varys made their way through a network of caverns beneath an old mining town. Jade's newly awakened quantum senses tingled with awareness of the crystalline formations around them, each one resonating with subtle energies she was only beginning to understand. "The crystals," she said, running her fingers along a wall. "They're naturally occurring quantum amplifiers, aren't they? That's why you brought us here." Varys nodded, their markings creating shifting patterns of light in the darkness. "This location hosts one of our oldest Earth outposts. The crystal formations allow us to communicate across quantum space without creating detectable bridges." They paused, turning to face her. "And they might help you fully awaken your inherited abilities." The main chamber of the outpost revealed itself to be a vast cathedral of crystal and advanced technology. Ancient quantum computers were integrated directly into the crystalline walls, their displays showing real-time data about both Earth and Avalon. But it was the center of the room that drew Jade's attention, a circular platform surrounded by crystalline pillars that hummed with potential. "A quantum resonance chamber," she breathed, recognizing it from theoretical papers she'd published. "I imagined something like this, but I never thought." "You didn't imagine it," Varys said softly. "You remembered it. Deep in your genetic memory." They stepped closer, their presence sending ripples through the quantum field that Jade could now perceive. "Your papers weren't just theories. They were blueprints for technology your Avalon ancestors once used." Before they could continue, one of the displays flashed urgent warnings. Jade didn't need to read the alien script to understand. The quantum distortions around Avalon's sun were increasing exponentially. "Nyxus," Varys growled. "They're accelerating the star's decay. At this rate, we have less than a week before total collapse." Their markings pulsed with barely contained rage. "They're going to murder billions to fuel their twisted evolution." Jade studied the data, her hybrid mind processing both the mathematical and quantum aspects simultaneously. "The world-breaker technology they're using, it's not just destroying the quantum bridges. It's creating quantum shockwaves that are destabilizing your son's core." She approached the central platform, calculations and intuitions flowing together in her mind. "But if we could create a stable quantum network, connecting multiple points around the star. We could contain the quantum cascade," Varys finished, silver eyes widening with understanding. Create a safety net of stable spacetime to prevent total collapse. More than that, Jade said, excitement building as the solution crystallized in her mind. We could use the network to evacuate your people. Not one bridge at a time, but hundreds simultaneously. Even Nixus couldn't sabotage them all. The crystals around them resonated with her growing excitement, their quantum harmonics aligning with her thoughts. Jade gasped as new awareness flooded her consciousness. She wasn't just sensing the quantum field anymore, she was beginning to understand how to manipulate it. Varys watched in amazement as Jade's body began to emit the same kind of luminescent markings as their own, though hers shimmered with a unique iridescence that spoke of her hybrid nature. Your awakening is happening faster than I expected. The crystal chamber is accelerating the process. I can see it all now, Jade whispered. The quantum framework underlying reality, it's like a vast neural network, connecting everything. And these crystals. She touched one of the pillars, sending ripples of light through the entire chamber. They're like nodes in the network. We can use them too. She stopped abruptly, her newfound senses screaming a warning seconds before the outpost's alarms confirmed it. They've found us. Not just found us, Varys said grimly, checking the displays. They've surrounded the entire area with quantum dampening fields. Nixus must have brought half their remaining forces. The chamber's entrance exploded inward as reality itself was torn apart. Through the breach stepped Nixus, their form now barely humanoid, quantum energy crackling around them like dark lightning. Behind them came dozens of hunters, armed with weapons that could unmake matter itself. Did you think these ancient crystals could hide you? Nixus's voice resonated on multiple quantum frequencies simultaneously. I should thank you, hybrid. Your existence proves that our evolution must be guided. Controlled. The strong will survive, and the weak. You're wrong, Jade interrupted, stepping onto the central platform. The crystalline pillars responded to her presence, their quantum harmonics aligning with her hybrid signature. Strength isn't about destruction. It's about connection. She reached out to Varys, both physically and through the quantum field. Their hands clasped, and the chamber erupted with light as their quantum signatures synchronized. The crystals amplified their combined energy, creating a cascading resonance that made the hunter's weapon sputter and die. Nixus snarled, launching a bolt of pure quantum disruption at them. But Jade and Varys moved as one, their combined quantum fields deflecting the attack back at its source. The corrupted general staggered, their unstable form flickering. The evacuation will proceed, Varys declared, their voice carrying the weight of command. All of our people will survive, not just your chosen few. And then we'll heal our son. You can join us, Jade added, feeling power surge through the crystal network. Help us save everyone. Or stand aside. Nixus's response was another attack, but this time, Jade was ready. She didn't just see the quantum equations anymore, she was writing them, redefining the possible. With Varys' strength flowing through their connection, she began to weave a new kind of quantum bridge, one that even a world-breaker couldn't tear apart. The battle for two worlds had begun, and its outcome would depend on whether love and connection could triumph over the dark allure of power and selection. As quantum energies clashed around them, Jade felt more alive than she ever had. She was no longer caught between two worlds, she was the bridge between them, and she would fight to save them both. Quantum energy surged through the crystalline chamber as three forces collided, Jade and Varys' combined power, Nixus's corrupted quantum manipulation, and the ancient resonance of the Earth outpost itself. The air crackled with possibilities as reality struggled to maintain coherence under the strain. You cannot hope to control this much quantum energy, Nixus snarled, their form shifting between states of matter like a living glitch. Even your hybrid abilities have limits. But Jade wasn't trying to control the energy, she was working with it, letting it flow through the neural network of crystal formations that honeycombed the mountain. Each crystal acted as a quantum processor, amplifying and stabilizing the fields she and Varys were generating. Through their joined hands, their quantum signatures harmonized perfectly, creating patterns that even Nixus's world-breaker technology couldn't disrupt. "Show me Avalon," Jade commanded the crystal network. The chamber filled with a holographic representation of the dying star system. The sun's core was a maelstrom of quantum instability, its natural fusion processes corrupted by Nixus's interference. Around it, millions of lives hung in the balance, their evacuation routes cut off by systematic sabotage. "Your people's suffering ends now," Jade declared. She reached out with her hybrid senses, feeling the quantum threads that connected everything, the crystals, the earth beneath them, the very fabric of spacetime. With Varys' strength supporting her, she began to weave them together in ways that neither human mathematics nor Avalon technology had ever achieved alone. Quantum bridges began forming throughout the chamber, but these were different from any that had come before. They weren't just tunnels through spacetime, they were stable networks, supporting each other, creating a web of interconnected passages that could transport thousands simultaneously. Impossible. Nixus launched another attack, dark quantum energy threatening to unravel Jade's creation. But Varys was there, their warriors' instincts translated into quantum defense, protecting the forming network while Jade continued her work. "The evacuations are beginning," Varys announced, reading the quantum data streams. Multiple colonies reporting successful bridging. Thousands already safe. Nixus screamed in rage, their form expanding as they drew on the full power of their world-breaker technology. The chamber shook as reality itself began to crack under the pressure. "If I cannot guide our evolution, then none shall survive." The corrupt general's quantum signature began to pulse with deadly resonance, threatening to trigger a cascade failure that would destroy not just the chamber, but potentially tear a hole in spacetime itself. The same technology they had used to destabilize Avalon's sun, now turned to pure destruction. But in that moment of crisis, Jade saw the solution with perfect clarity. "Varys," she said softly, "do you trust me?" The warrior's silver eyes met hers. "With everything I am." Jade smiled and pulled Varys closer, their quantum signatures merging completely. In that moment of perfect synchronization, she understood that her hybrid nature wasn't about being caught between two worlds, it was about bringing the best of both together. "Your mistake, Nixus," she said, "was thinking that evolution means the strong destroying the weak. But true strength comes from adaptation, from combination, from working together." She raised her free hand, and the entire crystal network pulsed in harmony with her hybrid energy. "Let me show you what real evolution looks like." The quantum web she had created began to shift, not just connecting distant points in space but reaching through time itself. She could feel Avalon's sun, its quantum structure corrupted by Nixus's interference. But instead of fighting the corruption, she began to work with it, redirecting its chaotic energy into the evacuation network. No. Nixus realized too late what was happening. Their world-breaker energy was being drawn into Jade's quantum web, transformed from a force of destruction into one of creation. The more they struggled, the more their power was converted, feeding the very evacuation network they had tried to destroy. Through her connection with Varys, Jade could sense the massive movement of people through the stabilized quantum bridges. Millions of Avalon citizens transported to safety, their quantum signatures preserved perfectly through the enhanced network. But she didn't stop there. "The sun," she said, her voice resonating with power. "We can save it too." Working through the quantum web, Jade began to rewrite the star's quantum structure, using the same principles she had once explored in pure theory. The corrupted fusion processes began to stabilize as she applied her hybrid understanding of both human physics and Avalon quantum manipulation. Nixus made one final attempt to stop them, pouring all their remaining power into a devastating attack. But Jade and Varys stood firm, their combined quantum field absorbing and transmuting the energy. The corrupt general's form began to dissolve as their power was drained away, their consciousness scattered across the quantum field they had tried to dominate. As the quantum storm subsided, Jade opened her eyes to see the holographic display showing Avalon's sun returning to stability. The evacuation network hummed with success, billions saved through the power of combined human and Avalon innovation. She turned to Varys, whose markings were pulsing with joy and something more, love, unmistakable even through quantum perception. "Your people are safe," she said. "Both our worlds are safe." "Thanks to you," Varys replied, touching her face gently. "You've shown us a new way forward. Not through conflict and selection, but through cooperation and growth." Jade looked around the crystal chamber, now thrumming with peaceful energy. "So what happens now?" "Now?" Varys smiled, their markings synchronizing with her hybrid glow. "Now we build bridges between our worlds, not just quantum ones, but bridges of understanding, of cooperation. Together." As they sealed their future with a kiss, the crystal chamber erupted in harmonious light, quantum energy dancing around them in celebration. In that moment, Jade finally understood that she had never truly been alone or out of place. She had been waiting for this, to help forge a new future for both her ancestral peoples, with the person who had helped her discover who she really was. The quantum fields settled into a new pattern, one of balance and harmony. Earth and Avalon would never be the same, but they would face their future together, led by a hybrid physicist who had learned to bridge worlds, and a warrior who had learned that the greatest battles are won not through force, but through love and understanding. And somewhere in the quantum field, new possibilities were already forming, waiting to be discovered by those who were brave enough to reach across the boundaries of worlds and species, of science and spirit, of past and future, to forge connections that would change everything.